Next, let's go to the hardcore native. This is what folks think of as Arizona. Let's start with the cholla so I can get this thing out of here. Jumping cactus. It does grow wild throughout the mountains. It's tough as nails. You can't kill it. You can get too many if you get a lot of grandkids or lots of pets. Probably not the best landscape plant for you. But out by the street where the kids are cutting corners, oh yeah, perfect. Okay, right there. So you can use it strategically. It does have character. I mean, it screams, I have low water use. You could almost plant this and not put it on the drip system, probably. Just water it by hand a couple times a month and it would be fine. But again, there is no foliage on this plant, and the structure, the actual stems are green. The actual plant is producing photosynthesis. And so then the needles are actually shading that photosynthesis, so it kind of makes it really, really frugal. That's the reason that the needles are pretty tight. It's a shading pattern. It's a defensive pattern. And it hopefully keeps some of the animals from eating it. Because sometimes the animal will nibble on this to get to the moisture as well. So pack rats, ground squirrels, that kind of stuff. Anyway, just a classic thing. It does want to jump at me. Truly a jumping cactus. Put it right back here. Now, that's the main one. Spanish dagger, what's the common? Spanish spoon or desert spoon. The botanical on this is Deslaria. Anyway, call it desert spoon, okay? You'll notice it looks like a yucca, only with character, like dagger character. It's got little thorns up and down. They're not too sharp. They don't want to bite you like the cholla does, but it gives it character. Evergreen. You just plant it, you never cut it back, you never have to do anything with this thing. It's got a very large root mass that holds a tremendous amount of water, and then the leaves are actually coated in wax. So these spines come up and then they don't evaporate any moisture. So this would be great in Santa Fe, courtyard, true, you like crushed granite, but it's too much. You want to soften it up with something funky and neat looking that screams, I'm from the Southwest. This is great. It does get a little flower above it. So this looks really great in earth-colored pots, if you like, artistic stuff. In fact, they do magazine shoots with this plant in containers because it's that feng shui, sweet and sour kind of look. Okay. Mix that with what's going to bloom now. This is starting to bloom all over town. This is mine. I have one of these in the backyard because it's a spring bloomer. Fragrant as can be. Sweet, sweet fragrance. This is a broom. Anytime you see the word broom, does really well. A Spanish broom is the big one. Gets up really tall. Sometimes it gets too tall. You need to cut it back some. This is Scotch broom. The reason I planted this one instead of the Spanish broom is it stays shorter, so it only gets up about this tall and ball shaped. I don't want to be a slave to the shears in my backyard. You have to look good all the time by yourself. I'll fertilize and water you sporadically, but you got to look good because we got a party coming. And if you don't look good, well, dig you up, throw you out, replace you with something that does look good. So I have no love affair with plants. I do love plants. If you're ugly, I live in America. For 20 bucks, I can get a new one. So anyway, this has been in bloom, and it goes great. Scotch broom. Anytime you see broom, this will come in ground covers, this hip-high kind of thing, and it comes with the big one, the Scotch broom, the really large one. The Scotch broom I find is it does take some maintenance, and it does get old where you need to replace it a little more often than some of the shorter ones. I think there's one of these, or very, very mature one out in the parking lot, in the downhill slope. You'll see a very large one underneath a tree, Scotch broom. Again, this is not a native, but in this collection, you got to have one of these. Russian sage, this thing's a weed. So the secret with Russian sage, you have to abuse it more. If you're a gardener, you should not plant Russian sage. If you're a non-gardener, plant Russian sage. Because what you need to do, you need to take this, plant it, water it for 1 year, put it on the drip system, and then cut it off of all care. If you keep this thing on the irrigation system, it will get really full. It will start to seed every place. It will run and come up everywhere. You need to abuse it so it keeps it in its place. Don't give it extra care, give it less care. Also, if you put it on a drip system, I find in the summer when the monsoons come, it gets really tall, and then it just flops over. It's literally drunk with water. Just like stumbling around going, I can't take it anymore. This one needs to be starved. If you just can't tolerate, some of you gardeners just can't believe that. This is the really hardy mix. You can do that for almost all of these. Just take your drip irrigation, bend it back, tie it off so that you could get there and give it more water if you wanted. It helps you, your conscience. What I'll find is you'll forget where it was. You'll never go back and turn it back on. Okay, it'll just keep blooming. So this one is a better one. I planted this one. This is Lacy Blue. Lacy is a dwarfed version. So the standard Russian sage gets up about hip high or so, maybe a little taller. This one only gets up knee high. Less maintenance, less seeding, less problems, less. I like less care in my life. Now, my front yard is high touch, high garden. I have lots of containers. They're meant to go out for me to go touch the plants, get my garden fix. This guy would never do that. This I go through once a year. This is the only care I give it. I go through with the head shears. It takes me about 30 seconds. I whack it off right here, cut it back to about ankle high, that tall, walk away, and then I'll chuck some fertilizer at that all-purpose plant food, and it looks like $1,000,000. It's ready to go right now, even for a party. Okay, and then no, it's not a native, but everyone wants to look like Phoenix with this mix. So I brought a lantana. All lantana are annuals here. They only live, they won't go through the winter, except for this one. This is the only one that is perennial. The only zone 7. Everything else is zones 8, 9, 10. It's desert plants. This is Miss Huff lantana. It only comes in this color. You don't get the pinks, the purples. You don't get just this color. It's the only one that will winter over. They are very frugal. They'll take the heat. They'll surround it with rock, put it asphalt, put it in a commercial setting. It does this all summer. So, but this is the only perennial one. Okay. And then I think every landscape should have at least one of these. Snapdragons. I know it's not native. It thinks it's native. This will reseed every place. It thinks it's a wildflower. But isn't it luxurious? I wish it smelled good. It just looks good. So anyway, a snapdragon. I think everything goes with this. It goes with this. Oh, I guess we got a couple more. Yuccas. We do have a lot of yuccas and agaves that grow up here. Tremendous number. Let me share one thing that drives me crazy, if I might, for just a moment. Don't treat this like a grass. I see these landscape guys, some of them are idiots. They go through and they shear this back like grass. These are not meant to ever be cut. So it'll recover, but it'll take 2 years for it to finally grow back. Keep it intact. Don't cut it back like a grass. So it's not, don't treat it like a perennial. This is like a shrub. So keep it intact. I'll trim back in the midwinter this old spent flower bud, but I won't cut the foliage itself. The reason this is so tough, this is a classic native. See how the branches come out? These branches come out and they're almost tubular shaped. They bring the water to the middle of this plant, and it's got a very fleshy root mass. So it's designed to go for months without any care. Okay? Blooms from now through fall. It's a crazy long bloom cycle. You can take them off the drip system, absolutely. Gopher perch or gopher plant is how you see it. I have a lot of these because it just looks funky. It looks like Southwest. It's not a native. It is drought hardy. Very, very tough. Not a true native, but it's really acts like a native. Get it planted, get it going. You'll tend to overwater it. It has a big yellow flower that comes up. Just be careful. This one's really frugal. If you're going to kill it, I would treat this like a sedum or an agave or something. So very frugal on the water. Gopher plant. Yep. Cotoneaster. Where everyone pronounces it cotton Easter, it's Cotoneaster. This one gets up head high, good screen. Everyone wants to use the red tip photinia. That's not so drought hardy. That deer do like to eat that. It takes a lot more maintenance. This would be a hardier, easier care. If you want a big screening plant for the hot tub, or I've screened out big, huge at the farm, We have propane tanks that are the size of submarines. They're ugly. And they're on my back, you know, you come off the back deck and you see this huge submarine. I took a couple of these, screened it within a year. Grew up, couldn't see it. White flowers, and then it turns into red berries. So red-berried or cluster-berry cotoneaster. So gets up easy 8 foot, maybe taller if you let it go. Okay. And then this one is blooming all around town. Then we're done with this collection. In fact, we're even overwatering this. Can you see it's yellowing a little bit? We're even overwatering here in the bucket. We have a sign that says, "Do not water." So this is a true native. This is not cliff rose, rock rose. Yeah, cliff rose is starting to bloom around town too. We've got cliff rose too. Again, I'm just bringing collections. This is by no means the only thing you can go with. This is just kind of things that look good together. This blooms all spring long. Tough plant. Get it growing for a year, then you probably cut it off of all water, and it will still do this every year. Gets up, I don't know, just below hip high or so at maturity. But it just looks very exotic, yet very, very tough. Okay. Notice not a lot of thorns, but some spikes, some thorns. Oh, and of course, you gotta have a juniper in there, right? We're surrounded by juniper forests. Junipers think they just grow wild here. Junipers grow great. The negative with junipers, actually the negative with plants, sometimes they get old and they bring you down. Plants should be like rock stars. I mean, you don't see 70-year-old rock stars in front of magazine covers. That's from the 60s and 70s. They've grown old and now they're playing at some casino. Okay? The youngsters are the ones in the front of magazines. I mean, they should be vivacious and glorious. They should be young and actively growing. That's what plants should be, especially at the front of the yard. If you bought that old, you know, foreclosure or short sale, you got a whole row of these, and they're woody and scrawny looking. They date your house. Rip them out, replace them. I'm giving you permission to kill things. It's okay. It's not a kid. It's not like, it's okay to kind of freshen things up. I think sometimes we need to remodel the landscape like we remodel the kitchen. And sometimes these guys can bring you down because they get kind of woody. So after they're about 10 to 20 years old, probably that's a life. I know they'll live to be 50 or more years old. They don't look good for the last 50 of their years. Okay? Anyway, enough of my preaching. Then I've got, oh yeah, there we go. This one I use a lot. This one I soften my fence. I've got a cedar fence in the backyard. Just too much cedar. And so this I use to soften up. This is silverberry, or Ellie Agnes, if you think the name Ella and Agnes, Ellie Agnes. This is a tough evergreen. And again, here's a great indication. The leathery leaf, but you'll notice the leaf is two-toned. It's really sexy on the front of the leaf. It's got that variegation, but on the back it's white. It's a true native. This is what, so it only has moisture loss on the front half of the leaf, and then it's wax coated on that. It loses no moisture on the back of the leaf. So has a super sweet, fragrant flower. Gets evergreen up to about, I don't know, head high or higher. So it gets about this tall, this wide. So I think this is a far better, if you're going native, far better choice over a red tip photinia, which is not native, not drought hardy, high care, takes a lot. This one takes almost no care. If you travel a lot, this one will be alive. If the irrigation goes off while you're away, this one will live, no problem. This is great. This is little. This is going to get bigger than this. This is cute now. It's going to go this big, okay? Now some of the mixes of, if you like more of a cottage garden, more flower, more color, high impact, I brought these in. And so, but they're still native or drought hardy, okay? Let's start with the flowery stuff, or this is cat mint, not catnip, cat mint. This is the greatest perennial for here. It's an herb, so it has a fragrance. Javelina and stuff, ooh, it's got a nasty fragrance. Yuck. So nothing eats it. It starts blooming in April, does not stop until the fall. Crazy long bloom cycle. It'll die back to the roots. You won't mow it with a weed whacker or mower, and then it just comes back fresh again for you. It's got a crazy blue flower. It's one of the few true blue trending more blue flowers to it, and very, very tough. Okay, this is one that if you plant one, you'll get more. Keeps mounding, gets about that tall, keeps mounding and flowing. Cat mint. It grows really well with agaves or century plant. This is the one that has that great big flower that grows up to like 12 feet tall. You can almost watch it grow in the summer. It's rumored that it grows, that it puts on a flower every century. That's the name, century plant. That is not true. About 20 years out, it'll start to bloom. It just, I don't know where that century came from, but it'll bloom way more often than, but it is a pleasure to see one bloom. It's like a rarity. Usually they're just nice mounding kind of plants. So this will turn into, from this to pretty large, like 3 feet by 3 feet, okay? And we sell probably 3 or 4 varieties of agaves. Now be careful, because we also have influence from Phoenix. I think we've hit that one. Do I have the blue agave? I have tried. I'm a gardener. I don't believe anyone. I want to try to see if I can get it to grow where no one else can. Like I found, don't tell a gardener what they can or cannot do. They'll prove you wrong. This one is a zone 8 plant. I thought I had a zone 8 in my backyard by the pond because I would really, this is that great, this is what they make tequila out of. Okay, guys, this is the one. Okay, this is blue agave. Gets up huge. It is not very frost hardy. There are way more agaves that are like this than there are hardy varieties that will take our cold. Again, this one turned to mush. I got to live for 2 years, and then we had that sub-zero winter. When was that? A couple of years ago? Went sub-zero, and it wiped it out. So that proved that probably you'd be okay if you're out in Prescott Valley, going out towards Dewey, Cordes Junction. That's probably the upper range this could grow. So if you've got a bright, hot spot next to the house that's south-facing, you could maybe try it. Otherwise, it's Baghdad, Skull Valley, Cordes Junction. Those are Sedona, Cottonwood. That's where this one grows wild. Okay. The other century plants, no matter the cold, does really great. We've got the Utah Jensen's out there. It's a up the north part of the country. Goes down to minus 40 degrees. Some crazy man cold. I used this one. I've got the classic mountain home. It's a dugout basement. You drive down into the garage. You walk into the first floor. Got to walk downstairs to the basement to get out the backyard. So I've got stairs going down the side of the house that are rather precarious at night. I try to light them up, which kind of helped, but still it was for having parties and it's dark. I use this to light up the way. So I've got this along the steps sporadically so that it is real bright, it catches the moonlight, and it's super, super tough. It's a Santolina. Okay? What's the other name for Santolina? I think it only has Santolina. Anyway, there's no real common name that I know of. It just does this, it's evergreen, gets a little yellow flower on it, quite pretty. It fills up that little space. I've got little pockets by every step as you walk down. I've got a plant planted in each step going down the steps. Most of them are herbal like this. Animals do not eat this. No animal eats this. Anyway, it's pretty. It'll get nicer looking than this. It'll get a yellow flower, but anyway, Santolina, very tough. You could get it going and then cut it off with care, it would still look good. Gaillardia. Gaillardia is a native. This is one we add in the hydromulch where we've got a big scar, a construction scar, a road construction septic field. We'll put that seed mix into that because it just grows wild. It's a great wildflower for here. I brought this one because it's a different variety. Man, it's tough. Usually Gaillardias have a petal come straight out. This one has tubular shaped petals that come out, like trumpets. So it gives you this double flower look. And so it has a mild smell. You kind of pass that around. Also take a close look at the stem. You notice the stems are covered in hairs. You'll see that even on the flower. So those hairs coming down the stem, again, shade the plant from sun, and it keeps it from perspiring as much. Also, it makes it where the animals don't like to eat it, because they get those hairs stuck in their throat, and they kind of go, soda, this is not good. This one's a native that's growing wild. Anytime you see the word mallow, mallow is a great one for here. All mallows do really, really well. This is the native mallow. What's the name on this? I Can't even pronounce it. Sassafracia ambraguria. I don't know. Anyway, it's a mallow. Just call it mallow. Now, you'll never get just one of these. If you've got a hill where you got erosion going, plant this at the top of the hill, the seed will fall down. You'll have many mallows growing up throughout that yard. Great little plant. Again, blue color. It looks like it loves to collect the cotton too. So anyway, blue color. Blue is an indication of drought hardy and that animals don't eat it. Again, the blue is a secretion the plant throws off to keep the plant from perspiring. Makes it very, very frugal when it's water use. Also, it's a huge taproot that goes down. It's a very carroty looking taproot. We got to mention prickly pear because it grows so well up here. We do grow prickly pear really, really well. Fields and fields of them. So, enough said. Javelina do eat them for the moisture. They'll eat the pads sometimes. Why? If you've ever, well, we won't go with field dressing javelina, but anyway, you'll see in their mouth, you'll see barbs and needles and, well, yeah, that's true. Yarrow. Yarrow's a wild grower here. The whites and the yellows are kind of the wild ones. I brought this one. It's what's the color of that? Tutti Frutti Apricot Delight. It's a yarrow, okay? We use Tutti Frutti to get you to buy more, but it's red. Just an unusual color. We're trying to collect more of these because they're so tough. Butterflies dearly, dearly love these. So this is as tall as it gets. It's a little bit wider. Will reseed and come up in other places. Grass, grama grass. This is Blonde Ambition. This is one I use in my own yard. Gets up about this tall. The reason I use this one, the regular grama grass you see growing wild is kind of boring. This one has a seed head that floats above the leaves about this tall, and they turn sideways, and they're very bright colored. They look really good against a dark green foliage mass. It's got more going on. And I get bored with plants. I mean, I've seen so many, I want something new. This Blonde Ambition is a native with a twist. Kind of fun. Will go on its own. You could get it planted, root for a couple of years, let it go by itself. True native. Then, everyone knows manzanita, right? Great big evergreen manzanita. Evergreen, red stems. This is kinnick manzanita. It's a low-growing prostrate manzanita, a creeping one. This one is as tall as it gets. You see the foliage coming out now. It will just trail and run. It's a great ground cover, native. Very frugal, like all manzanita. But you take a close look, you'll see the red stems, same leaves, a little bit smaller, then it runs sideways. We have the regular Howard McMahon's, a great big one, but you all know what that is. I thought I'll bring the different one so you can see it. Manzanita works. And then, this is what I used on the back side of my pond. I wanted a native. In the backyard is native in my house. But we do have waterfalls and ponds. I mean, it's pretty nice. I wanted something that had kind of a palm look to it. So something tall to kind of keep your eye from traveling to the neighbor's like roof line or what they're doing in their backyard, but bring you forward so you look at our waterfall. I use this as a sumac. Anytime you see the word sumac, you know you're golden. Now, some sumacs can give you poison. There's poison sumacs. We don't sell that one. Okay? We're not going to sell that one. This is not poisonous. But animals don't eat it. But this one it's real tall. It gets up 10, 12 feet tall. It has a pretty thick bark to it, and the new growth has that hair to it. You notice that's a theme. You'll see a lot of hair or fuzz or a protective coating on top of the foliage. That's a sign that they're very, very robust. This one does. The only negative, it tends to sucker once it come up in other places. So treat it like a snake. Shovel to the head, pop it out. Don't let it grow there. Just root prune it. Get it out of there if it comes up in the wrong place. So, but really good fall color. Really pretty orange. Oh my goodness. It's gorgeous, gorgeous fall color. It's related to this one. This is low-grow sumac. I think this is a trilobata. Anyway, there's a lot of native sumacs that grow here. This one only gets about this tall and then spreads. So I use this a lot for erosion control, hillsides, too much rock on a slope, and I want to soften it up. And again, I think the color on this in the fall is orange or red. Very bright. All the sumacs have very bright fall color. And a pretty little bloom. You're seeing it starting to bloom a little bit. Just a nice soft, you wouldn't think this is a native. It's got a soft look. And animals don't eat sumac. Then, this is a native starting to bloom all around town. It screams Arizona. It's kind of funky. You haven't seen it until you moved here. This is Apache plume. And literally, it can have these plumes. This is where the name, oops, you see the plume. So first it blooms with this white flower, and then the blooms turn to plumes, which just gives it a lot of character to it. It tends to be pretty evergreen, and it just does this for a very, very long time. So very drought hardy. Again, water it for 1 year, cut it off with all care. Gets up to about chest, not chest, maybe just above hip high or so. And it just does this for a long time. Kind of different, unusual. And then every landscape needs one of these. Okay? It's a wildflower. It's an annual that just does really great here. You plant it once, it starts to reseed and come up in other places. So we use a lot of snapdragons around here. Okay, and I think, oh, Jupiter's beard. I used a lot of this. Oh, I broke it. I'm like a bull in a plant shop. My plant, my Jupiter's beard is actually looking just like this at home. And it starts to put these flowers on. Very, very long bloom cycle. It is a true perennial. It will die back to the roots, come back from the roots. It's already up this tall. It'll finally get up to about twice that height, twice that full. Very unusual native, but it's got a waxy leaf. It holds a lot of moisture within the structure and the needle and the roots, and then it reseeds. The only negative, this one reseeds. It reseeds. It's going to come up in more than one place. It's really. What did I say? Jupiter's beard. Yeah, Jupiter's beard. You know, sometimes it's a curse having Latin and common names going through your heads and connecting the two so they match. So, okay, and then I had a couple others. Oh, I put with this collection right here. Follow me with the camera. Because it's more high color, high fashion, everyone wants a Japanese maple, especially Midwest, Eastern folks. This is a drought-hardy maple. This is flame maple. It's got the same small leaf. Again, that's an indication of drought-hardy. A flame maple, it gets flaming red in the fall, just like a maple. But this one is very, very tough. So you treat this like your other native trees. Do really, really well. Big, massive root structure, small leaves. Gets up to about 15 foot tall, 12, 15, somewhere in there. Then it kind of tops out and just gets bushy. Usually multicolored, multi-stemmed kind of flower. The one I had, the tree I had for this was Arizona's or Prescott's centennial tree. This is deodar cedar. It looks innocent. This grows into be a monster. It's the fastest growing of the evergreens. So absolute faster than a ponderosa, faster than a pinyon pine. We have all those as well. This one gets up 50 feet tall pretty easy, pretty fast. Big swooping branches. Like kids want to climb up the branches kind of stuff. Big swooping branches. Majestic. You want to give it some room. So probably 3 times the growth rate of a Colorado spruce, but it naturalizes very, very well. You got a neighbor with that brand new, $100,000 RV. They park right at your deck, deck where you can see it. Plant one of these, it'll get rid of that whole albatross. Okay, you get rid of that sucker. And then I had a few more. Should I keep going, or are we about done? So these are just some plants you can put in now that are really, really tough. I've got one more cart, and then we'll call it all good. How are we doing on time? Just about out. So these aren't necessarily natives. Some of them are, but here's what, I just have a collection of things I've used differently. So in the base, sometimes our desert landscapes look kind of rough. They look sterile. We take rock and go right up to the trunk of a tree, and it's not natural. That's not the way God intended for landscapes to look. So I use a lot of these. These are coral bells or heuchera. sounds like you hacked up a fur ball or something. But coral bells, just put a little coral bell flower on it. I plant these at the base of my trees where that drip emitter is, and I'll be right in the same planting hole where the drip emitter is watering the tree. Ouch, man.
Wow.
Oh, that hurt. Stupid cholla. Anyway, we didn't say that on film. This is one that I soften up the inside of that tree well with. And you can play with this with different colors. This is copper, comes in greens, limes. I think I've got a lime green. And you can have fun with them. But this one will take it's pretty robust as far as hardiness, but as that tree grows up, it'll do very, very well in the shade area. But it'll take the same water cycle as on your irrigation as your trees. So I use them quite a bit in the tree wells. Okay? Not native at all, not thrifty, but if you treat them that way, put them in the right place, where they get in some shade, they naturalize pretty nicely. I use this one quite a bit. This is Society garlic. It's not an edible garlic. You can probably eat it. It actually smells like garlic even right now. I actually use this in my pots as defense because javelina don't eat it. You know, a pot is kind of like a buffet table for javelina. They just walk right up and nibble on everything. I'll use this because they don't like the smell, they don't eat it, and it tends to repel them from the other stuff that they might eat. But it's pretty, it's got a really waxy leaf. You'll never have just one garlic, you always have multiples. It's very tough. But I also use it as a repelling plant. Ivy's not native, but it is a weed. You put this on the north side of your house, north side I think, underneath as a ground cover, underneath the scrub oaks. And eventually, in 100 years, all that will be remaining is ivy. So it can really be aggressive. So I brought this one just because it's different, just variegated. I use this, I've got a huge retaining wall to get up to the patio, to hold in the patio kind of stuff. It was just too much, it was too sterile. But it was north slope, so there's not many things that would grow there. But my backyard is native. So I wanted something that would be really robust and I could take care of. So I planted these to soften up that wall at the base. And it takes the same water cycle as my other native landscapes, and yet it filled up and clinged onto and held that retaining wall down. So softened it up. So again, I like that secret garden. You know, my landscape is so happy, it's just flowing with life. This helps me attain that. I have a front lawn. I ripped out my last kid, who's going off to college here in the fall. She's shopping colleges now. She's going to New York. Her identical twin sister, guess where she's at? California, the direct opposite. Now what is that all about? So I got one in California, one in New York. But when they left, I lost the people that know how to run my lawnmower, which is bad. And I don't want to run a lawnmower. So I ripped it out, put patios in, and I put a thyme lawn in. This I water right now every 10 days. It's probably, I'll tend to overwater it as the monsoons hit. And it just is nice evergreen, has a really pretty bloom to it. But thyme, animals don't eat it. The dogs seem to like it. I like to roll around it. And the only negative where the dogs are at, it does tend to spot more than let's say I had a fescue lawn before. So I do get a little bit of that. It's such an aggressive grower that kind of gets past that. But think of your herbs as a ground cover. I just put soaker hose underneath the ground about that far, turned it on wherever the wet spots are, plugged one of these, filled up 200-300 square feet pretty fast. Okay? This is as tall as it gets. So it kind of spreads, kind of grows up and spreads. So we've got a lot of different creeping thymes here, but it's called creeping thyme because it creeps. I think every yard needs one of these. This is scabiosa or pincushion flower because the flowers look like a pincushion. This is a butterfly landing pad. Butterflies love this plant. But javelina don't seem to leave it alone. It's drought hardy. Good little plant. This is as mature as it gets. Get a little lighter, won't get any taller. Always loaded up with hundreds of flowers. St. John's wort, you'll see written up all the time as drought hardy. It is. It's got a real waxy leaf to it again. Very pretty yellow flower. It's been in bloom for well over a month. Then it'll put on these little berries to it. It's got a lot of character to it. Evergreen. Nice little shrub, gets up about hip high or so. Very good looking. Doesn't say I'm native, but it is. It's a very tough little plant. And then sedges. I brought two. This is not dead for you non-gardeners. It's supposed to grow red like this. Sometimes you get too much. This would look really good with a dark cinnamon colored rock in pots where it's kind of hard to keep things watered. This would be a really tough little plant. But again, the foliage is coming up and it's real tough and rigid and waxy. Makes it very, very drought hardy. This is very mature and it'll get bulkier or fuller. This is the same thing, the same family, only it's orange in color instead of red. Comes in green, comes in red, comes in this orangey color. Okay? Again, stays short. And lastly, every yard needs one of these. Okay? They come in different colors. So snapdragons are great. Snapdragons really do well, and animals don't eat this. And don't you want to get a little ranch dressing and kind of cut it up and eat some yourself? But they don't eat this. They leave it alone. It's an amazing little plant.
Are they water? Do you have to water them more though?
I use a lot of this in my containers because they're tall and they give me some dimension to it. What I find is in the yard, if you put them where irrigation is just naturally going anyway with other plants, it'll come up there, then it will reseed everywhere. It seems to want to reseed in other places. So that dry wash that's going through your yard, you put a few in there strategically, you'll have quite a few of these down there with age. So we sell it as an annual, only this for 1 year. It thinks it's a perennial. And it comes back and back and back and back. Okay? Little secret, this is in full bloom right now. As June approaches, it'll stop blooming. You have seed heads right here. I'll whack those off with my shears. I'll fertilize it. As soon as the monsoons come, it goes right back into bloom. So if you want to kind of front load or charge it to bloom again for you, that's the way to do it. And that's all the plants I have. Oh, lastly, the trees that go with this, golden locusts. Aren't these pretty around town right now? The new leaves come out gold, and then this will mature to be green. And then the fall color will be, again, this gold color. So it has a lot of different seasonality to it. Again, notice the leaves. Very narrow, very small. Oops, I didn't mean to pick all the leaves off, but rows of very small leaves. It's very, very frugal in how exposed the leaves are. And it's got a bit of a waxy coating to it. Very tough little tree here. If you water this one incorrectly, it'll tend to sucker. You've got to train all your locusts. Very long water cycles, very deep to get the roots to go down instead of just this shallow and coming up every place. So kind of watch that one. And then I mentioned this one too. This is another native. You saw a tree blooming white just out in the scrub. Just all of a sudden this real pretty tree would just be in white bloom. That was a prunus family, or service berry. Grows wild in the mountains of Arizona, and it's got a real pretty, it actually puts a little fruit on it. If you're a bird gardener, it's a great tree, very hardy. I don't know what makes it so tough. It looks delicate, it's tough. So short tree, doesn't get very big, maybe 15 feet at most. So it'd be more like an ornamental tree kind of thing. But the colors in fall, bright orange. So if you're thinking going native, go with this instead of a maple. Maple I would put as a moderate water user. This one I put as a low water user. Okay? We get a couple ideas? So I want to get you a couple things that you can use right now to make a difference in taking care of things. I'll take a couple questions at this point. What do we got? So I saw a few hands. Yes, in front.
There's a tree that gets very green leaves like this on it that get the hanging pink flowers. Not quite as
gotcha.
As
sure. So she said there's a tree out right now that's like this, but it has a purple to pink flower to it. That's purple robe locust. And it can vary, the flower color can vary depending on the pH of your soil. If it's real high pH, it will trend toward pink. If it's a more neutral pH, it will trend towards purple. Okay, but purple robe locust. It's a big plant. It gets up, it's a shade tree. We're talking 30, 40 foot tall and equally as wide. So you can shade a patio and you can count on it. It'll be in bloom about Mother's Day. You got a party, you love Mother's Day parties, purple robe locust, always in bloom. Big wisteria looking blossoms. Yeah.
For new yard with landscaping, I'm sure you do designs.
Do we do designs?
Yes.
No, I don't. I do have a designer that comes on. I do collections. I line out more landscapes here in the aisles. I've got a raised bed that's 20 foot wide by 6 foot. Yeah, we design things. You go home and plant it yourself. I don't actually do the drawings and all that stuff. I don't have the patience for it. ADD doesn't help you with detail. Some more big picture, global kind of thing.